Okay. Take two. Not totally sure what happened, but it cut me off. So we're here again. Okay, let's start over. I am here, Miss Jess. If you were just watching the last video for some reason, it cut me off, but we're gonna try again. All right, so we're here. We're gonna talk about homeschool support, a special winter edition, talking about ways that we can enjoy the winter, stay sane, stay healthy. Okay, so as I had brought out before, I was just saying how winter is a difficult time for many people, and there's a lot more discussion about it this year in particular because of the COVID pandemic and the amount of isolation that comes along with that. The fact that there's families that are juggling a lot more, whether you're homeschooling for the first time, or perhaps doing like a hybrid school through public school, doing the school online. So, and perhaps still trying to work and do all of these normal family things and responsibilities that you have. So, this could potentially set some up for a difficult winter, and that would be understandable. So, I just wanted to say, everything I'm going to talk about today, it's not any kind of like medical advice or anything like that. And it's not going to solve many bigger issues that some might be dealing with. So I just want to encourage anybody that may be struggling at a level that they are not equipped to cope with, that is okay. There is no shame in that, and that absolutely talking to a doctor or a mental health professional if you need help is a very good and responsible thing to do, and can make your life a lot easier moving forward. So definitely do that, and it might be as simple as making recommendations as far as taking vitamin D supplements to counteract the shorter days and less sunlight, having a healthy sleep schedule, making sure that we exercise. Maybe it will mean taking steps to speak with a therapist, or perhaps consider something like medication. There's a very real chance, but that you would need extra help, but to deal with these struggles. But there's a very wide variety of steps that you can take, and there are many people, experienced professionals out there that want to help you. They are available to you, so definitely take advantage of that. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to be clear about that. That what I'm talking about is definitely, if you consistently put these things into practice, they're going to make an enormous difference in how you enjoy the winter right now. But this is by no means like a fix all situation for somebody that might be suffering from more severe winter depression or struggles. Okay, so the advice that I'm going to be relating is really advice that primarily comes from Scandinavian countries, which makes sense. They know what they're talking about, right? So, in many Scandinavian countries, you have the Arctic Circle actually passes through Norway, Finland, Sweden. Denmark is obviously very close. And so they deal with very long winters, periods of very short days. If you are in the Arctic Circle, it's about 27 days of darkness that you deal with consecutively during the polar nights. So it makes sense that as a culture, they have come up with ways to combat the struggles that go along with that type of weather. They also get a lot of snow. Scandinavian culture is absolutely known for being very nature based in their mentality, their lifestyle, and that means all year round, not just when it's sunny and nice outside, but that love of nature and being in nature absolutely extends to the winter months and when it is snowy. And that is really something that I have had to embrace and change my attitude about. Um, I still have concern as winter approaches because I do struggle with some seasonal depression, the winter blues. But I've really tried to change my outlook and also change my language. both internally and externally, and that's something that I would recommend for anybody. Think about how you're talking about it as winter approaches. I'm not concerned now that I know I can find joy in winter. I do still have a normal concern about whether or not I've prepared myself practically to deal with the winter blues or seasonal depression that I deal with. Do I have the tools that I need ready? And preparing in advance for something that you know you struggle with, that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. So you're setting yourself up for success, but making sure that my language is still has optimism, and while it's still based in reality and that I do need to prepare, that I'm looking forward to many things about winter. So, first, let's talk about the indoors. There is a Danish word, and perhaps many of you have heard of it at this point. It's spelled Hyggge. It's pronounced Hyuga. And you, again, you may have heard of it. It's become pretty popular over the last several years. And I found one definition online that describes it this way. Huga is used when acknowledging a feeling or moment, whether alone or with friends, at home or out, ordinary or extraordinary, as cozy, charming, or special. And this doesn't apply for just wintertime in Denmark. It applies to the summer too. It's a year round feeling that they use this word to express. But it's definitely their weapon of choice when it comes to not just surviving winter in Denmark, but loving it. So, how can you apply Huga to your home and your lifestyle and your homeschooling? Well, I'm going to share with you just a few ways that my family does it, and that you could potentially take those ideas and maybe come up with your own methods. So, one way is to kind of set the stage. Make sure you have lots of cozy blankets, cozy clothes, slippers, things that give you that cozy feeling. Fluffy, luxurious. Make sure that those things are ready for you. We always have throw blankets around. Over the last few weeks, I've made sure that we have a couple more, and I just leave them out. They're not necessarily just in the basket that they're normally in over the summer. They're draping over things, maybe a few extra comfy pillows, things that make you feel nice and cozy. Have them out, have them ready, have them accessible. Candles. I diffuse a lot of essential oils with wintry smelling oils or calming oils, having twinkle lights out. Embrace the fact that the darkness of winter can be a whole comforting mood. It doesn't have to be something that you dread. That really kind of uh, embraces that idea of Hugo. Cook and bake more, especially baking or roasting, anything that you use the oven for. Cooking and baking, first of all, it's an excellent teaching tool. So for homeschooling, that's something year round that you should be doing, but it's great to really lean into in the winter. Spending time in the kitchen with the oven on, it makes it nice and cozy and warm. If you're baking, you have those wonderful smells that fill the house, time together. But it's also a great teaching tool. So, first of all, you're learning a life skill. That's essential. You need to teach your children how to cook. But it's also covering things like chemistry, math, problem solving skills, preparation skills. There's so many different benefits to using the kitchen and homeschooling, and during these winter months is, again, it's a great time to really do that. So, you know, turn it into something that's really special. Try to make challenges for yourself. Come up with the best hot cocoa recipe. Learn how to roast a whole, or how to make a whole brand new um, full dinner. If you have older children, and they know how to safely operate the oven, they know how to safely do chopping and things like that. This could also be more of an independent study, something that they can do on their own to challenge them to make a meal for the family. It doesn't have to be all junk food. We're not talking about necessarily just eating chocolate chip cookies and brownies through the whole winter, although if that's something that you want to do, more power to you. But, you could practice making healthy breads, making muffins for breakfast, um, different teas, things like that. So you can pick things that are on the healthier end of things. And challenge yourself. Like I said, you can pick different themes, maybe different cultures from around the world that you want to learn how to make a dish from. Cooking shows like the Great British Bake Off can be very inspiring. Incorporating those into, you watch an episode and you have to pick something from the episode, or maybe even if you have siblings in your home, that it could be more of like a challenge where they're baking off against one another. You could watch tutorial cooking YouTube videos to learn new skills together. Yes, embrace the kitchen and make it a nice, warm, cozy place over the winter. It's a great place to learn and enjoy that cozy time of Huga. Also, don't be afraid of the TV. There are many educational shows, documentaries. Winter is a great time to take advantage of that. Cuddle up on the couch, have some tea, have some hot cocoa, make that a part of your winter routine and incorporate it into your homeschooling. For instance, my son and I, we've been doing, the last several months, we've been doing a lot of American tall tales. So that's been kind of part of our language arts study. So we read them, we talk about them, we're writing reviews, we're drawing pictures, we're doing arts and crafts, but we're also watching cartoons or movies that are based around these characters like Paul Bunyan, David Crockett, and really it kind of ended up developing because of that into a whole history lesson for the US. And we've had some very good conversations that have tackled big subjects like prejudice, racism, and all of that really stemmed from the TV shows and the movies that we were watching. So don't underestimate the power of that. That can be educational and it can be incorporated into your normal routine. And winter is a great time to do it because it's a nice, cozy inside activity to enjoy together. Also, board games are great there's many educational board games, but honestly, most board games and card games, they really incorporate different problem solving skills, strategy skills, sometimes competitive, but sometimes cooperative. And then if you go into certain games that have math skills that are included as well, that counts as homeschooling. We call it game schooling. Most people call it game schooling. So you can really play into that for the winter as well. It's a nice thing to do together. Again, make it nice and cozy, that idea of Huga. And of course, reading books. Winter is the perfect time to snuggle. Well, every time is the perfect time to snuggle up with a book, but winter is a great time to do it and make it extra cozy. Many people have special winter reading traditions, whether that means that they trade books or they give each other books or they have special books that they reread over or series over the winter, something that's special to them. So traditions are a great thing to incorporate in the winter in general, but of course, reading is, that can definitely give you that feeling of Hugo. All right, so we covered inside. Let's talk about outside. Speaking of outside, my favorite Swedish saying, another Scandinavian idea here, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes. So in the summer, we go to the pool or the beach. We make sure we have everything that we need. We've got our flip flops, we've got our swimsuits, we've got our sunscreen, our towels. The winter is no different. For kids, we make sure that we've got boots and snow pants and snow jackets and gloves and a hat, everything that's essential, and that's great. That being said, we are talking about having a goal of really being outside on a normal, regular, consistent basis. So not just about sending the kids outside to sled or build a snowman for like 45 minutes and come in and have hot cocoa. We're talking about spending quality time outside as a family, or as a parent or parent educator with your children, enjoying not just the snow days, but the wet days, the dry, cold days of winter, the dark days, the sunny days, all the days. Again, this is very Scandinavian in nature because they have this emphasis on being outside in fresh air every single day. They adapt to the changing weather and the dark times that they have and the snowy times that they have. And so a lot of this could really just come down to our mental attitude and our outlook of how we view winter, of if this will be successful or not. But for sure, we can say scientifically that getting outside regularly, including during the winter, it will make your kids happier. It will make you happier. It will naturally boost your mood. It will naturally boost your immunity. And it also makes it easier for the time that we are inside. Your kids are going to be much less antsy because they've had this outlet to be outdoors without walls, and they've been able to get that energy out. So overall, absolutely. If you make that part of your routine to be outside, even when you view it as being hard to do it, um, it will make your life a lot easier. Uh, so this book actually goes by the same term, or by the title, you playing off of that saying. There's no such thing as bad weather. Why can't I? There we go. By Linda Axon McGurk. I know I said especially her Swedish last name horribly wrong. This book was very enjoyable. It's all about this mom. She moved from Sweden to Indiana, and she took a lot of her Swedish habits of being outside in the winter with her kids, or young kids, and just applied them in Indiana. And she was very surprised by some of the criticism, and surprised that that drew from her neighbors. So she talks about that. She talks about fresh air, napping for children outside. That's a huge Scandinavian, just a part of their daily life for kids, even when they're very little, when they're babies. Playing outside, taking care of nature, playing in dirt. But the one thing I wanted to draw attention to, and I'll include some links to some other tips regarding dressing for the outdoors as well. But she has a little cheat sheet about dressing for outdoor success. And really, what it comes down to is that layering is key to make this work. So, according to her, and a lot of the other references I'm going to include for you, for winter, she talks about layering clothes is key to keeping children warm in cold temperatures. So, you want to first off have a base layer, the first layer. This is going to regulate the child's temperature and keep them dry. This layer usually will fit snugly against the body. Long underwear made from merino wool, synthetic fibers, or a blend of both works best when it comes closest to the body, since these materials move perspiration away from the body. Cotton, on the other hand, soaks up moisture and leaves the child feeling wet and cold. So something that's, if I was going to say there was one really main point that you should remember about layering for outdoors, that's it. Don't have cotton as your base layer because it will make you actually colder in the long run. The mid layer insulates the body by trapping body heat. This layer can be made from either natural or synthetic fibers, and can consist of something like a fleece jacket and pants, or a sweatshirt and sweatpants. And then the outer layer, you're really looking for that waterproof, windproof, but breathable layer. So your snow pants, your snow jacket. Like a one-piece bib overall is great for young kids. That way they don't get the snow down their pants or up their shirt. Underfoot straps she talks about for keeping pants in place. And high visibility for outdoor adventures if you're going to be in like the late evening, darker times, that is definitely good. And then, of course, having snow boots or fleece lined rain boots. This year, for the first year, actually, we have rain boots, and I did buy a fleece insert for them, and we will see how that goes. So far, so good. Waterproof mittens with long cuffs, and a hat. So we want to make sure that you layer, and then you can also kind of just, the best thing about doing the layers is that when you layer like that, if your child might run a little bit hotter, or they get very active and their temperature starts going up and they feel uncomfortable, it's very easy to take off layers and then, you know, bring that temperature down a little bit to where they're comfortable. So it's better to have more layers that you can then take off, is a great key. Okay. And keep in mind that this isn't just for kids. If this is going to work, if you're going to make this a regular part of your family routine, the adults have to be dressed well as well. And keep in mind too, like your level of activity. You know, are you going to be going for a hike? Are you going to be more or less watching maybe the baby outside while the older kids run around? Well, you and the baby might be dressed a lot differently than how your kids who are running around active might be dressed. So bear that in mind as well. Again, that's why layers work really well, because you can kind of keep changing it as your level of activity and your temperature changes. So, what do you do outside? Speaking of, well, have lots of free time to explore, play freely. Winter's a great time to look for animal tracks or a scat, especially right after a fresh snow, or if there's mud. That's a great time to look for animal tracks and try to identify the animal. Also, playing with ice is a great activity. They're in Play the Forest School Way. This is another great book. They have a whole section about ice art, a whole little mini chapter. And there's lots of different things, whether you're using um, different found things like bark and leaves and berries and things like that. You can make little art sculptures, ice sculptures, ice mobiles, ice orbs, all different fun things that you can do. And that's very unique and special to the winter time. So that could be a great tradition as a family, is to kind of incorporate those ice art materials into school. It's also a great time to practice survival skills, building forts, learning how to do knots. And there is something really special about even bringing usually we use a tarp because it's waterproof, like a tarp outside and laying it down and having a warm beverage all bundled up, and you have some hot cocoa in a thermos. Winter is a great time to do that and just kind of enjoy the quietness and the stillness of being outside. That can be a really special, special time. But just to note, of course, you know, if you are dressed correctly, if you keep your feet and your hands and your face covered, you can probably go outside for longer periods of time and in colder weather than you would have imagined. But that's not to say that there's not still dangerous weather in the winter, because of course there is. So I will also leave some links regarding, it's the way it's laid out is kind of like a green, yes, this is definitely safe; yellow, use more caution; and red, no, definitely avoid playing outside during these times. So obviously you want to avoid anything that would lead to frostbite or hypothermia or anything. Still making sure that we are safe and 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 still enjoy the winter weather, but do it safely. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful to you. I know these are the things that really have helped me over the last few years. I remember about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, it dawned on me I was getting all this winter gear for my son, And I it just kind of struck me like I've never really invested in a good pair of winter boots. Why have I never done that? Not as an adult, and we live in Pennsylvania. We get plenty of snow and cold temperatures here. And boy, did that make a difference. When you have the right gear, spending time outside in what would normally be considered bad weather really becomes much easier. That's why I love that Swedish saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. So hopefully you've gained a little bit of Scandinavian wisdom like I have and are able to put it into practice. And if you have any questions or would like to leave perhaps your own tips and tricks, things or traditions that you have in the winter that are special to you and give you that warm, cozy feeling, feel free to leave them below and have a wonderful evening and a wonderful winter.